Good evening everybody, a warm welcome to those attending and also to our viewers watching live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. This is a meeting of the Property, Highways and Transport Select Committee. My name is Councillor Keith Burrows and I will be chairing this meeting. Details of the business to be considered today is shown on the agenda, copies of which are available in the room and also accessible on YouTube underneath the actual broadcast. Just a few housekeeping rules. We're not expecting a fire drill today, so if the alarm does go off, please follow officers to fire exits and out of the building to the designated meeting points. For those in the room also, please switch any mobile devices to silent before the meeting starts, or do as I've done and switch it off. Now, for those watching via YouTube, if so minded, you can complete one of our resident feedback forms. These can be found in the information section underneath the YouTube video. These forms are intended to help us improve the way that we run our meetings. Now, before we move to the agenda, I will just do what I usually do, and let's go around the table to introduce ourselves, so those that are watching on YouTube know who are currently present. As I said, I'm Councillor Keith Burrows, and to my immediate right.
Good evening everybody, I'm Councillor Steve Tuckwell and the Vice Chairman of this committee.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Alan Chapman.
Good evening, I'm Michael Norton, I'm the Head of the Capital Programme Work Service.
Councillor Elizabeth Garlick.
Good evening, Councillor Kamalpreet Kaur.
Good evening, Councillor Peter Money.
Evening all, I'm Steve Clark, the Democratic Services Officer for this committee.
Thank you everybody. Just remember, when you are speaking, make sure you turn your microphone on, and when you've finished, make sure you please turn it off, because the cameras pick up where the microphone's turned on, and we've had a few incidents in the council chamber where the camera don't really know which way to look. Can we please start with any apologies?
So we haven't received any apologies for absence this evening, Chairman, but it's noted that Councillor Davies isn't present currently. Thank you.
I think he had a family funeral that he had to attend. We're not totally sure, but we understand that he was at a funeral. So, declarations of interest before this committee. Any declarations? None shown. Okay, moving on to agenda item 3, to receive the minutes of the previous meeting of the 6th of June 2023. If I go by page, if you've got any comments, please indicate. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Can we take those as accurate record of the meeting of the 6th of June? Agreed? Thank you. Okay, we now move on to agenda item 5, which is the confirming, before I come to that, agenda item 4, is confirmed that all business marked part 1 will be considered in public. Any items marked part 2 will be considered in private. All agenda items this evening on our agenda are in part 1, so all public. Agenda item 5, the Platinum Jubilee Leisure Centre, West Drayton. We've got a project update from Michael. Welcome. We've been looking forward to this update because it was mentioned at our previous meeting. So it's over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a project that has been a number of years in the making. It developed from a feasibility study that was carried out, which showed a need in that area of the borough for additional swimming space, and it was decided through a feasibility project that the best solution was to build a leisure centre in that area. Initially we had to shortlist a number of potential sites, and out of that we chose the one on Harmansworth Road, Rowley's Place, as being the most appropriate for what we were trying to achieve, because we needed a certain minimum area and also an area where there would be parking nearby in order to develop such a scheme. The project we've proceeded with is a 25-metre, 8-lane swimming pool. There's also a leisure pool with a slide in the development and a training pool. We also have a forecourt sports hall along with a gymnasium and also a rooftop 3G five-a-side football pitch. We also have an area of soft play and a cafe included in it. It's been designed so that it's a commercially viable, so that it will at least cover its own cost, plus the council should get some income back from it through the operator that will be operating it. We did undertake a resident consultation back in, I think it was 2019, and the feedback we got was mostly related to parking. But our contractor was appointed, I think it was in 2021, and they have commenced work. They are working well with local residents and the local area, keeping the site neat, tidy, and are progressing actually quite well with the project, which we expect will be delivered next summer. Currently the steel frame is in place, and they are constructing the walls and putting them in place at the moment. Work is proceeding quite well, and the work on the walls is being done by tradesmen who live in the local area, because that was one of the criteria we had for the project, is that they would use as much local labour as possible. So we're quite happy with the programme. We're quite happy with the quality of the work to date on site, and we're happy with the budget in that we appear to be on budget for this project. While it's quite an expensive project for the borough to undertake, it is something that has to be done well in order for it to work. And we've worked on the basis of it being a sustainable project, and this project will be net zero carbon I think it takes till about the mid-2040s for it to be net zero carbon to work out the construction part of the carbon. But that's how it's been designed, so that it can achieve that. And it provides a great benefit to residents in the whole borough, and particularly in the West Drayton, Useley area of Hillingdon. If anyone has any questions they would like to ask me, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Tuckwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Michael, for sharing an update on what is a really exciting project for Hillingdon, but in particular, as you said, for the residents of West Drayton, Useley, and indeed Heathrow Villages, just up the road a little bit as well. Again, fantastic investment, and I think Hillingdon needs to be congratulated for providing this facility. I've got a couple of questions, if I may, Mr. Chairman. And you mentioned about the carbon piece, which is absolutely vital with all major projects. We want good quality air. We've already got good quality air in Hillingdon, but given its proximity to Heathrow Airport, how are we tracking the air quality credentials that would have been part of the planning permission for this development?
Yeah, well, it was part of the design, and if we meet the design criteria, we should meet the carbon net zero that we are trying to achieve. We will do an assessment at the end as well, but we are monitoring quality of the project as it goes ahead, so that it meets the specification that we have prepared. We did engage a specialist to help us with the design to ensure that we could achieve net zero carbon, and the contractor is working well with that.
I have another question, if you may indulge me, Mr. Chairman. Again, you made a reference there to the construction being focused on local employment, which again is great for the local economy. I'd just be interested to know a little bit more about that, and me in particular, have we got any sort of young people working on apprenticeships for this project?
Yeah, they have, I believe, taken on some apprentices, but the block work that's going on at the moment is mostly local labour, but that is all part of our brief, and part of the employer's requirements for the project is that they will use local labour where possible and try and take on apprentices as part of the project.
Do we have if I may, Mr. Chairman, for you, do we have a feel for sort of how many apprentices? I appreciate it's going to be in stages and sequences, and there might be apprentices further down the line. But do we kind of have a feel for sort of how many young people will enjoy apprenticeships as a result of this project?
That's a figure I'll have to come back to you on. Yeah, but I will come back to you on the exact figure. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Michael. It's good to see you again. It's good to know that you're concreting over other people's wards and not just mine, actually, but that's another story. You mentioned you mentioned parking, and I must admit that sort of gives me flashbacks to when I used to be on planning, sort of thing. Can you just remind us how many parking spaces there are there?
I believe it's around 140, but I'll come back to you on the exact number on that. Yeah.
And that's normal car spaces. Are there coach
spaces? There is a coach space that's on the Harmansworth Road as a drop-off space. So the coaches will come drop off.
There's not as such dedicated coach parking on site.
The intention isn't that the coaches would remain on site. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the only other thing, Chairman, through you, we have sort of discussed it beforehand. Would it be possible maybe to have a site visit? Because I think we'd all be interested to see. I'm not saying necessarily now in its current state, but further down the road when it's maybe more palatable to actually have a look round. Yeah, it does strike me as being a wonderful state-of-the-art place, and I think everybody would like to see it.
Yeah. Yes, we can certainly arrange that. Yeah, probably later on the year when the walls are up, it'll give a better feel maybe for what it actually will look like finished. So I'll get that organised with the contractor.
Yeah, I take on. Sorry, Chairman. I take on board at the moment. There's not a lot to see in terms of apart from aspiration, shall we say?
Yeah, it's block work going up and a steel frame and a roof at the moment. But in a few months' time, they'll be finished the block work, so you'll start seeing the room layouts.
Be able to understand it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Well, I've actually got written on my pad site visit early January, February. So that'd be fine. So there'd be quite a bit done then. If the project's due to finish summer 2024, early January, February, there should be a lot more to see than if we go to some point this year. Councillor Money.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Michael. I also had site visit written down. It would be really interesting to see it. As I did also have local labour. Really glad that local labour is being used. If we could have some figures, just to see what percentage of the local of the workforce is local, if that's possible.
Yes, I can find out what percentage of it is. I think nearly all the block layers on site are living in the local area. I might stand corrected on how many, but I'll come back to you on figures of how many are on site at the moment that are actually living locally.
Thank you. I had a couple more questions and points to make. Really glad that a lot of local labour is being used. Are they also using local suppliers? Because there's quite a few local builders, merchants and suppliers in the area. A lot of specialist merchants around Heathrow as well, around Heathrow villages.
I expect they would, but they're quite a large contractor, so I presume they do bulk buy from some of the big names around as well. But we can ask them the question, how much of the materials are they buying locally?
Yeah, my point being any project of this scale using local labour, local suppliers, local workforce, it's a positive for the local economy. And just on the budgetary aspect of it, the project is budgeted at 37 million. Obviously, with the inflationary pressures and everything going on, are we still on track? I know it says we're on track, but do we have some leeway in what's going on with the current economic crisis?
Yeah, we're still on track, and it is a fixed price design and build contract that we've let. So an element of the risk sat with the contractor. But we have had no feedback that there is any issue with the budget from the contractor's point of view. So also it was done in 2021, so some of the issues were known at the time.
Yeah, sorry, almost done. Obviously, with the inflationary pressures that's gone on, it's the interest rates just spiked. Just to confirm, what you're saying is the 37 million is inclusive of a design and build aspect for the project to be finished, and the council doesn't have any other say in if these factors do affect it, our cost doesn't go up, which is a good deal, because that's not the way it normally works. So if that's the deal the council got, it's a good deal. What we have is we have a fixed price design and build contract. The contractors is 32.9 million. The rest of it is our design fees for our architects, engineers, etc., and the other associated fees we'd have with procuring a project. And we do keep a close eye on the budget. Generally, in fixed price contracts, unless we change something or something is changed outside of the contractor's control, like say a new legislative requirement that we had to fulfil, generally the contractor has to stick to the price that they have quoted us for it. A final question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. The 140 parking spaces, obviously during the consultation stage, parking and traffic was a big issue. How does that compare to other leisure centres in the borough, like Hillingdon, Hayes? Is 140 enough for a project for an end build this size?
I'll come back to you on the exact number, but my belief is that there is less than in Uxbridge, but Uxbridge is a bigger centre, and there is more, I believe, than in Botwell. But we did some calculations, and we got a transport engineer to help us with the traffic and what we would need in terms of parking for the site. So we also have to take account of the London plan in terms of the number of parking spaces that are provided as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
Any other questions, Councillor Tuckwell?
If I may have a couple more follow-up, because it's Councillor Money has sown a seed in my mind, really, so I'm going to keep on the local theme. And you might not know the answer, Michael, so I'm happy for you to drop through the chair any numbers. But I'd just be interested to know if the contractor has any social value KPIs, such as, they're helping out, with any other community projects. They're going to help out with. We've already talked about the employment, and you're going to come back to us on that. But I'd be just interested to know, because I know in some cases where a local authority engages with a large contractor, part of that contract includes social value KPIs, so they have to employ people from the local area. They also make sort of contributions to community groups, voluntary groups, helping them out if there's any sort of repairs on local scout huts or anything along those lines. So just interested to know what those social value KPIs within the contract might look like.
I'll come back to you on what the exact social value KPIs are in this particular project.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Chair. Michael, I just wanted to understand that we say end design is net zero, but what are we doing to offset the carbon footprint in the building process, and what are we doing to mitigate the effects on the residents around it now? Obviously, when it gets built in 2040, it will be net zero, but what are we trying to do to mitigate the current effects on the population around it? Thank you.
It's net zero carbon, and the reason it's the mid-40s, that's the time it'll take to kind of use up the carbon that was done in the construction part, because steel, concrete is pretty carbon hungry in its manufacture. However, it is a material that does last quite a length of time. So the idea being is that we have a lot of I suppose mitigation measures put in, and the idea being is that there'll be almost a negative carbon in it to kind of use up the carbon that was used in the build period. Yeah.
Chair, if you may allow in a follow-up. So are we also constantly looking at how it's affecting the local residents' health and everything as the project goes on? Has it had any effect on the people in any which way? Thank you.
Not the build process itself. The contractor, is, I suppose, liaising with the community, and he does keep them up to date on what's being done. There is nothing in the construction it's part itself that would actually harm anyone. It's just a lot of the carbon that's there is just carbon that's involved in the actual manufacture of the materials and the build out of the site itself, rather than it would cause any issues to anybody nearby. But the contractor is actually quite good at liaising with the local residents, and there is no feedback from people in Raleigh Close that they have any issues with the work that's going on, or and they do keep an eye on even things like traffic and parking of construction vehicles, so they do keep a good close eye on that as well.
Any other questions? No? Well, thank you for the update, Michael, and answering the questions put to you by councillors, and if you can just feed back those points you've got to through Steve, our clerk, and then they'd be fed through to us as well. As I said, I'd written down here site visit early January, February, because if we're on track to finish summer 2024, we should have quite a bit to see January, February time. Obviously, if we don't have snow in January. But all right, so thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. And if you do want to leave, then by all means you can while we continue on the meeting.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you.
So moving on to agenda item 6, which is the major scrutiny review topic selection. There were a couple of ideas floated, I think, at the last meeting. Councillor Tuckwell had mentioned housing maintenance and repairs. I'd mentioned the reconfiguration of the Civic Centre, because there's a lot going on within this building, and with other aspects that the Uxbridge Library will be coming into the Civic Centre, etc. I think that might be a good topic for us to look at, because obviously we will want, if the library's coming in here, we will want it to function as a library as it does now up the road. And, this committee could look at how's that going to be reconfigured, how's that being thought through, what's the process, how are people going to get into the building. At the moment you've got a separate children's section in the Uxbridge Library. How's that going to be accommodated if it gets moved in here, etc., etc. And obviously we're bringing in a lot more from outside workforce and bringing those teams into here. How's that working? How are they communicating with each other? So I've got that on the table. As I say, we've got the housing maintenance and repairs. But also Steve and I had an email exchange, and I'm going to let Steve explain now, decarbonisation of the council's assets.
Yes, so it's a shame actually Michael's just left, because he would be one of the officers who would be a good contact on that. But there's an extensive project going on in the council in terms of decarbonisation of the council's assets. The Civic Centre being one of the council's main assets, a huge asset in Uxbridge Town Centre. So it's a possible project that the committee could have under their remit and monitor as it goes on, because it's a very measurable project, and it could be an extensive scrutiny review for the committee. But it depends on the committee's appetite and what suggestions the committee have.
I think because we've been talking about decarbonisation, etc., and I think that might be a good one for us to do. Technically, you don't have to say that these are all major. We can do what other scrutiny committee done, and they looked at them and done them as small projects. Mm-hmm. So you feed in 3 reports to Cabinet or 4 reports to Cabinet throughout the year. Rather than concentrate last year we concentrated on the highways because that was a big area to do. Whereas this year we had a recent housing maintenance and repairs update at a previous meeting not so long ago. We can bring them back in, we can start scrutinising that, and I think we can start the reconfiguration of the Civic Centre, because a lot of that work is now taking place. And I think if all of us walked around the Civic Centre now, where, say, for argument's sake, planning used to be, it may not still be in that same area altogether. You know, you may have other elements in there now, and this has moved to that section, that's moved down there. So I think that would be a good one if everybody's in agreement. And I think decarbonisation. So I think we possibly could do the three. Councillor Money.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So yeah, I think we're on the same wavelength today, because minor reviews, I think, are the way forward, because there's a lot of interesting topics on here. Ones that stick out to me, I agree with Steve on this one, housing maintenance and refurbishment, very important. I think that should, in my opinion, and your opinion, it should definitely be a topic. Road safety and school safety, maybe a minor topic. Again, another very important bit of work we could do. And also bus routes and transportation, I think, which I have to say affects my ward more so than probably other wards, but it is very important. There's quite a few bus routes being changed, and I think a minor review on that would also be good. What are other people's thoughts on this, I suppose? Because I would like to push on those four. And the reconfiguring of the Civic Centre, aren't we a bit late to the party? Because surely they've done a plan and they've jigged out where the library's going to go and what the access is going to be. Surely there must be a plan in place that they're working towards if the works are ongoing, unless I'm mistaken.
I appreciate what you're saying. Yeah, surely there is a plan, but has any of us seen the plan? Yeah. And do we know if there is a plan? Does the plan actually work?
I mean, if people are on site, I'm assuming there's a plan. I'm hoping there's a plan, and we're definitely late to the party on that one, because they're carrying out the works, and what benefit will our report be at the end of Cabinet if they've already carried out the works? Just a thought. But yeah, it would be interesting to see the plan in this committee, definitely. Maybe another minor topic. I'm all for 3 or 4 minor topics rather than one big one. Yeah, I'm definitely for minor ones.
Councillor Chapman, you indicated.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I agree totally. We've potentially got 4 or 5 very good, albeit minor topics. Maybe I was, to be honest, the one I was particularly keen on was the reconfiguration. But as you say, potentially we've missed the boat. That said, of course, one assumes that somewhere in this wonderful building there's a fantastic plan that somebody can actually put down on the floor and show us, and we will just have opportunity to say, this is wonderful, or have you ever thought about this, or what does that mean over there, sort of thing. So it might be more the case there for the presentation. But that said, I think they're all very, very valid, worthwhile things to look into. I'm not offering you a priority, though, I'm just saying that.
I do think. Councillor Tapwell, before.
Yeah, I think all of us around the table here could go down this list and we could all come up with wonderful value-added minor reviews, but we've also got to just bear in mind the capacity that we've got as well, and I think, you know, I think we should be fluid, you know, in this and adopt an approach which allows us, you know, if something particularly comes up, then we can give it a minor review over a 2 or 3 meetings. I think for me, again, as you know, I mentioned the housing maintenance because I think that's an important topic that impacts on a lot of residents. So I think it'd be good to get our heads around that. I think I've listened to the debate around the Civic Centre reconfiguration, and I think we've got an opportunity here to ask some good questions. You know, if it is a presentation, and we a bit like today's presentation, we can ask some questions about, you know, on behalf of residents. I think, you know, about the, you know, whatever is intended to come in here, just making sure that it's, and that could also then feature into the decarbonisation. We can kind of merge those two, making sure that whatever we're reconfiguring actually contributes to the decarbonisation. as has been said, this is the biggest asset that Hillingdon owns. But you know, for me, working in the transport industry, I'd also be interested to sort of focus a little bit on the transportation and particularly the passenger services piece. But again, we just need to be mindful of our capacity as a committee. But I like the idea of more minor reviews which we can get our teeth into.
Councillor Money?
And just with the minor reviews, we should definitely be fluid with it, and it could turn out to be a really good major review. You know, we could get our teeth sunk into it. It could be a good major review. But I think with us, if we start doing 4 minor or a number of minor reviews, it could build up to something a lot bigger. But we don't want to add to Steve's workload too much, so I'm mindful of that as well.
So the committee's appetite to be concurrently running these reviews, or to essentially knock a review out one after another? It's up to the committee, of course. But
through you, Chairman, concurrently, I think, yeah, side by side, definitely.
You haven't got officers available for a meeting, then you can bring in officers from the other one because they're available, so we can run them concurrently. I think the best way forward then is if Steve, you can go away, find details for us.
Yeah, speak to officers.
Speak to officers. Come back to us and say, well, yeah, we can do this, we can run with this, we can run with this, we can't run with that because of X, Y, Z. But certainly I think housing maintenance, refurbishment and repairs, I think we've all agreed around this table that is a good one to look at. And I think what Councillor Tuckwell said about merging the decarbonisation with reconfiguration of the Civic Centre, because it is the biggest asset we actually own. You know, it always used to be the bane of my life when I used to drive past here at night, and this was lit up like, I don't know what, more than Wembley Stadium. And I wasn't just talking one level, it was every single level of this Civic Centre had lights on in all the offices. But now, of course, we've got the sensors fitted whereby the lights will go off, etc., which is moving towards all of this. So I like the idea of combining those two. Road safety, as you know, Councillor Money, is very dear to my heart anyway, for obvious reasons, and school safety as well. And that could be just a small project with the highways team, be David Knowles and Steve Austin, and their team, because I have seen some improvements. In fact, the school in Falling Lane by the library there. Is it Falling Lane?
Cherry Lane.
No, Falling Lane. Near Falling Lane Cars. You know, it used to be a zebra crossing. They've now installed...
Not Heathrow Villages.
No. They've now installed the pedestrian lights. They've actually, after years, we've actually put lights in there because, again, improving road safety and the safety for the children.
Through you, Chairman, we can also have an update with the cameras, the school safety cameras that were, I think, approved by Cabinet 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think they're outside almost every
schools.
School. Yeah, outside schools.
Yeah, I wasn't very popular then. So yeah, we can look at that. But we'll let Steve go off and do some background, come back to us, and then we can finalise those. But I am very keen to take the housing one, definitely, most definitely. Councillor Money.
So just to confirm, the ones we're going to go for are housing maintenance and refurbishment, the reconfiguring of the Civic Centre tied in with the decarbonisation. So we're going to join that together, road safety and school safety, if we can merge those two together. And I would really like to push for bus routes and transportation as well, if everyone else agrees.
I think bus routes, have been a bane of everybody's life, especially coming north to south. You know, how many years have we tried to get a decent bus route coming across? And how long does it take?
Through you, Chairman, we've got issues in Heathrow Village. It's going from one village to the next to the next. There's no single bus service that does that. And it's something that a few of our residents have been pushing pushing on, and I think it will be a good review to get some evidence on this.
Okay, and the other one, I think Councillor Tuckwell mentioned, possibly, if we've got time when we're doing these, and I think we may do, is did you say fleet and passenger services, which we run ourselves? Councillor Tuckwell.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's the SEN bus services would be good to have an overview of that. But again, just listening to the debate, it's absolutely vital that we have a review of bus routes in the borough, because the orbital, getting in and out of London in this borough is quite easy with the Elizabeth line now, but getting up north and south, as we know, is very tricky. So that's why a lot of people are reliant on cars in this borough. I think the other thing to add to the school piece, and I think we've all got primary schools in our wards, and we've got primary schools that cause a lot of problems 2 times a day. And we're probably good to tie that in as well, and have a look at sort of like how we're going to work with the schools to deal with what can be very tricky situations with road networks and sometimes parent behaviour as well. And is that the STARS team that look at that, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, totally agree with all of those. So, Steve, we will leave you running with those, and come back to us next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Good debate. Everybody happy if we move on? Okay. Agenda item 7 is the... Oh, sorry. Councillor Garlick.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to ask, was it possible to, regarding the housing maintenance, would it be possible to pay attention to the aspect of mould in the accommodations, because it seems to be more common problem occurring in flats and even private households.
Okay.
Yeah, I think part of our committee, our responsibility as a committee, is to draw all of that out to see how we are as a council approaching those sort of issues, and if there are gaps, then as a committee it's our responsibility to actually report into Cabinet and say this, this and this. So yeah, we'll make sure that is there, definitely. Okay, agenda item 7, the Cabinet Forward Plan. I've had a look through it. There was nothing that really jumped out. Some of these are private, if you have a look, so some of them we can't mention. And if you did want any details, then you would have to let Steve know if it says public or private on the column. But there was nothing that really stood out to me. Is there anybody got anything on the forward plan they really want further details on? No? Okay, so we're happy that we've taken that as noted. Okay, thank you. And that leaves us with agenda item 8, which is our work programme. As we can see, our next meeting is down. Obviously, we have no meetings in August, so we are down for September 20th. We've got the scoping stage, which will be for our topics. We're getting a draft report for our part, which is the highways one. And for obvious reasons, I'm sure we all appreciate, Democratic Services all of a sudden had a lot of pressure put on them by a certain resignation, and therefore they are dealing with the forthcoming by-election, and so it's quite understandable that Steve really has not had the opportunity to finalise that report at the moment. So we've got the mid-year budget planning report. We've also got the Cabinet Forward Plan, which we always have. We've also got the Heritage Asset Maintenance, which will be an interesting one. So that's coming to our September 20th. And then the other dates of the meetings are the 18th of October, 14th of November, 10th of January, 8th of February, 6th of March, and then the 9th of April. Any comments on the council money?
the September meeting, is it possible to add the building safety strategy monitoring onto it to beef up the agenda a little bit? Because I think we've been waiting for a while for that, haven't we?
They came in March.
Is it March?
We had it just before the AGM. We had Gary Pentecost and
Sure.
I've forgotten his name. But yeah, we had two officers come down, and then we've seen to essentially make it an annual item in about springtime each year, because that monitoring of the fire doors and the medium and high-rise blocks is something the committee wanted to see annually, essentially not as a one-off, as a regular thing coming back. So it's in the work programme for spring, because we only had it a few months ago. But if the committee do have an appetite to bring it forward, I'm perfectly happy to speak to officers.
My worry bringing it forward to the September meeting is that we may have quite a few comments on the draft report, and so I would rather get that done than bring that forward, because we did only have that not so long ago. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. It's just a really important bit of information to be kept up to date about.
Yeah, definitely. Any other comments? No? Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attendance this evening. Thank you, Steve, for your clerking, and we shall see you at the next meeting. Thank you.